7 creepiest science experiments of all time that will give you nightmare. Scientists often run into doing crazy things in the quest of discovering something important, but some of these experiments aren't just worthless, but are unbelievably creepy. Science is a beautiful gift to humanity. It can tell us what is true or imaginary. The scientific experiments have often led to important discoveries that eventually help the mankind to live a better life. Sometimes though, scientists in their quest of knowledge end up conducting experiments that are not only unethical but equally disturbing. The world has witnessed many of such spine-chilling and weird experiments that went badly wrong and even cost lives. Here's the list of 7 creepiest science experiments conducted ever that will certainly give you nightmare. 731. You may have heard about the inhuman experiments done by Nazi during the World War II, but they were not alone. The Imperial Japanese Army's Unit 731 did some horrible things in the name of some scientific experiments, some details of which are still left to be uncovered. It was until 1984 that Japanese acknowledged about conducting cruel experiments on humans to prepare for germ warfare. Set up in 1938, the objective of Unit 731 was to develop biologic weapons and was supported by Japanese universities and medical schools that supplied doctors and research staff to carry on such wild experiments. This unit used thousands of Chinese prisoners and Asian civils as guinea pigs to develop killer disease. The experiments included infecting wartime prisoners with plague and other substances. Horrific still, some of the experiments involve body operation without anesthesia just to identify how much a human can survive. Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment. The Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male is infamous because of the tragedy it caused to people suffering from the disease in the name of free treatment. Between 1932 and 1972, 600 men were originally enrolled for the project, consisting of 399 with latent syphilis and 201 as control group. Monitored by Doctor of United States Public Health Service, these men were given only placeables such as aspirin and mineral supplements rather than treating with penicillin, which was the recommendation treatment at the time. The purpose of the study was to understand the effect and spread of the disease on human body. Because of the unethical consideration by scientists, 28 participants perished from syphilis, 100 died because of related complications, and more than 40 supposed were diagnosed with the disease, passing syphilis to 19 children at birth. President Clinton in 1997 issued his apology to the survivors and families of the victim of the United States, stating, "The United States government did something that was wrong, deeply morally wrong. It is not only in remembering that shameful past that we can make amends and repair our nation, but it is in remembering that past that we can build a better present and a better future." The dogs. Vladimir Demikhov was a successful surgeon, and his studies have helped medical science to advance, especially in the field of organ transplant and coronary surgery. Demikhov was the first person to perform a successful coronary artery bypass operation on a warm-blooded creature. But behind his successful operation, there are a few of his experiments that can make you feel uncomfortable. His famous two-headed dog experiment is one of them. He switches the head, shoulders, and front legs of a puppy onto the neck of a German Shepherd. Although this surgery wasn't successful, as both dogs could move around independent of each other, they didn't survive very long due to tissue reaction. Demikhov created 20 such two-head dogs, but the highest one survived only a month. While the experiments may seem cruel, it indeed helped in pioneering organ transplant in humans. Transplant. In one of the most disturbing experiments, Leo Stanley, the physician in charge at San Quentin Prison in California, surgically transplanted the testicle of executed criminals into living inmates. Stanley felt that males who committed crime share a common characteristic: low testosterone levels, and raising it will reduce the crime rate. More than 600 inmates become the victim of Stanley's crazy theory, and when there was a shortage of human testicles, he went on to inject liquefied animal testicle into the prisoners. Stanley claimed that the experiment was successful by studying a Caucasian prisoner who felt energetic after transplanting the testicle from an executed African American convict. The Stanford Prison Experiments. In 1971, a group of researchers at Stanford University conducted an experiment to investigate the causes of conflict between prisoners and guards. 24 students assigned the roles of prisoners and guards and randomly were put into a prison-like environment. Meant to last for 2 weeks, the study ended after only 6 days, as it became difficult to control and maintain order. Despite being told not to use any form of violence, one of every 3 guards showed their tendency to abuse. Surprisingly, many of the prisoners accepted the abuse and led 2 of them to suffer emotional trauma. The study showed that how powerful a situation can influence individuals' behavior. Zombie dogs. Known as experiments in the revival of organisms, Russian scientist Dr. Sergey and his friend Boris realized a video of dog heads that were kept alive by an artificial blood circulation system. Using a special heart-lung apparatus called the autojector, the scientists showed dog heads responding to sound by wiggling their ears, blinking eyes, and even licking their mouths. The experiment was repeated again by American scientists in 2005 by flushing all the blood from the dog and replacing it with oxygen and sugar-filled saline. After 3 hours, a blood transfusion and an electric shock, the dogs were back from dead. MK Ultra. MK Ultra is one of the most famous projects conducted by CIA to develop mind control techniques that can be used against enemies during war. Lasted for more than a decade from 1950 to 1970, the project's main goal was to remain ahead in the mind control technology. But the scope widened, eventually resulting into illegal drug testing on thousands of Americans. Using drugs like LSD and other chemicals along with other forms of psychological torture, the agency tried to alert brain function and manipulate mental state of the people. The documentation related to the project was ordered to be destroyed completely, but in 1977 the Freedom of Information Act released more than 20,000 pages on the program.